Rare Gem Productions proudly presents Entrepreneurially Thinking. Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, changing the way you view new ventures and activating your entrepreneurial mindset, empowering you to create new pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. I'm Christy Maxfield.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl Watkins-Moore. As you guys know, I lead our STEM inclusion initiative for BioSTL here in the region. Hey, girly girl.
How are you?
I am okay. We are burning through season 9.
We are. So if folks that keep track of us, they might know that we record 2 shows when we record on Tuesdays when we come together. We'd like to get a few in the hopper so that we can go out and do things, especially in the summer, because we know you need your time off. And it's not quite summer yet, but I'm looking ahead.
I am wishing it were, because I am sick of snow, cold, and everything else.
I know.
Right?
It's soon, I promise. The nice thing about podcasts, though, is they're evergreen, so you can be listening to us anytime, any place. So if you're on the beach or on the slopes, we hope that you'll continue to find us, listen, share with your friends.
Schlepping around
St. Louis. Or not schlepping around. If you're being like my husband and I, practice being slug on the couch. Whatever the case may be.
That's right.
Just make sure that you share us out with your friends. Follow the hashtags ETHINKSTL, eThink Podcast. Stay listening. Find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, LinkedIn, and please help us share, because that means that more people will hear these stories and know of the great work that our sponsors, CET and BioSTL, are doing. We have to thank them for their continued support, and we hope that you'll check out our website and their websites to stay on top of everything that's going on.
And wherever you guys are, we want to be.
We do.
So, today is going to be so cool.
Right now, I want to be wherever our next guest is, because she's out and about all the time. I follow her on the Instagram.
Oh, you're on the Instagram?
I'm on the Instagram.
Ooh. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not there yet, guys.
I know.
But anyway, this is such a cool conversation for women. As we all know, cost and price point present a real issue for us, right?
Yes, because we like to, well, for anybody who likes to buy things, but for women in particular.
Yes, we're at a time when the dominant voices in fashion coverage rarely mention or consider price and discounts. They might talk about it, but a little bit, but it ain't about, this is where you can find it or whatever.
A deal.
Right, I want
you to look at my outfit and be like, that's very nice.
That is so cool.
You only paid what for that?
Right. It was this very fact that drove our next guest to publish a blog that strives to stimulate discussions about budgets and the economics of making desires fit within our pocketbook. When we come back, we'll speak with a fashion blogger who is, I'm telling you guys, I'm looking at her right now,
chic,
who finds chic, bold pieces that showcases her awesome personality and her love for fashion. This passion has earned our fashionista guest the title of, get this, Best Budget Blogger in St. Louis. Say that 10 times fast, okay? Want to learn more about how to spice up your wardrobe and stay on budget? Well, you better stay listening.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. We want you to know about all the great things they are up to, including the BioSTL STEM Entrepreneur Inclusion Initiative, which strengthens the region's bioscience ecosystem by identifying high-potential, talented women and minority STEM entrepreneurs and providing a systematic pathway for them to create viable, high-growth ventures. You can learn more about all of BioSTL's programs by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
Hi, I'm Psyche Southwell. I'm the editor and creator of Economy of Style, a notebook on evolving trends, fashion, sense, and sense, the kind that go cha-ching. Entrepreneurially thinking means finding creative and innovative ways to meet a need and solve a problem.
Joining us today is Psyche Southwell. She is creator and editor of the Economy of Style blog.
Ooh.
And so if you follow the blog or follow her on Instagram or any of the other social media outlets I know she's on, you have noticed her impeccable style. And this St. Kitts native actually has a background as a social science researcher and educator. And it's this intersection of like knowing all she knows about what it means to
Not
live
be
on a budget and live within the real world and be a fashionista that has put her not only on our show, but on the cover of RedBook and in Cosmopolitan. She's been referenced on TV segments on NBC and CBS, and she's received the RedBook Real Women of Style Award. So we're so glad you could be with us.
Oh my God, we are so happy to have you
I'm
here.
excited to be here.
Yeah.
Well, clearly we needed a stylist for today's show because
You both look amazing.
I can't. She has these incredible green pants on with this.
Oh my gosh.
I think chartreuse might be the right color blouse, but
Yeah,
it's
right
close,
on point.
right?
Yes.
Thank you.
And these reptiles.
I enjoy
I love it.
I
I'm
enjoy
looking
a
at
good
the whole thing.
chartreuse.
Yes.
I don't think I can really wear it with my complexion, but that's a whole nother story. I enjoy a good chartreuse. So tell us, you make a living helping other people understand how to look as great as you look.
Mm-hmm.
So how does one get to do that? Like, where did it start?
It's so funny. I'm going to take it way back at first.
Please, she loves that.
That's
The farther
because
the
I
back,
was
the
like,
better.
She's getting ready to forget my first
No,
question.
I figured
It's always
it
like,
would get
where did it
there.
start?
Don't worry.
Right. What brought you here from beautiful, warm St.
gosh.
Kitts?
So take us way back.
So I moved to St. Louis to go to graduate school. I went to undergrad in Texas first. So that's the reason I left St. Kitts. While living in St. Kitts, I was born and raised there. I've always had an interest in fashion. But when I envisioned my future, I saw myself living there. And I wanted to be successful. And to be honest, when you come from a really small country like that, if you want to be successful, the models of success did one of three things, right? They were doctors, lawyers, or they worked in banking. So I was very technical and into math. So I studied economics and I went into banking. So I actually worked at the what we would call the Federal Reserve Bank for my region before moving here and going to college. Studied economics, always still had that passion for fashion, this yearning to do something more. So I said, well, let me think about doing more meaningful work. So I started doing more applied economics. I've worked with the Center for Social Development at WashU.
Wow.
I was with the UK Center for Poverty Research. I taught social policy analysis at the University of Kentucky. Still had this urge for something more because I have this technical mind, which was good at doing that kind of work, but I also really had a creative side as well, too, that was just untapped. So actually, while I was in graduate school, I started my blog for kind of three main reasons.
One was grad school.
I was at WashU.
Oh, so that's what brought you to St. Louis.
Yeah, that's what brought me to St. Louis originally. So I started with kind of three main reasons. The first one was very personal. I wanted to, reach women who cared about fashion as well, too.
Yes.
In my immediate academic circles, like the uniform for a scholar is to look like you don't care about how you look. Right? So I was like, I was dressing like this and always got a lot of attention, but nobody who I could really engage with about fashion. I also wanted to, start talking about fashion as something that was actually intellectual. So a lot of times fashion and style is seen as something that's very anti-intellectual, and I wanted to dispute that. And then thirdly, I was a graduate student at WashU with a great fellowship, but anything about WashU tuition, most of that went to tuition. Right. And I was living off of something like $18,000 a year, and I had a car note, an apartment, and a student loan. So I didn't have a whole lot of money left over to spend on clothing, and I still wanted to look good.
Right.
So I would do all kinds of things to like examine the market and think about when it was the best time to buy something, because I wanted really good quality clothes, not cheap stuff.
Right.
So I found ways to get it, and I had nobody to share all that with either. So I would write about that stuff on my blog, and turns out other women cared about it too.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. That first of all, she wanted to share it, because a lot of women would be like, "I'm not sharing what my secret is." Are you
I'm
kidding
not her
me?
size. I can't. We're not going to fight over the same thing.
Right.
She's going to get it for sure.
So yeah, I just started writing about that online, and this was before social media as we now know it. Instagram didn't exist. This was 2007, so Twitter had just started. Facebook was still mostly for college students only, so they weren't like pages. So you had to find ways to get yourself out there, and I did. And there were a number of women that would come by, and I could kind of see where they were coming from. They were also coming from universities, because I had a very kind of professional, very clean, kind of modest kind of style. So it attracted that kind of audience. And over time it grew. And then I got the attention of all kinds of people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is really amazing. So you've kind of like outlined fashion is your passion, right?
Yes.
So, besides, I don't know if it's besides the blogging, how else do you parlay? Because
how else does fashion as your passion make it into the world?
Yeah.
No, and I get it. And that was a big concern of mine. And that's why I didn't go into fashion, even though I knew, as a little girl, I was like, instead of, coloring in coloring books, I was literally sketching my own magazines and doing that kind of stuff. But in my immediate world, fashion never presented itself as a viable career. And here I was now having, studied all these things, gone into grad school, had a full career. So I was older. So the thought of getting entrance into fashion now was kind of like, it was late and I'm older and I'm not going to do like the fresh out of college, get an internship that doesn't pay for 2 years. So I used my blog and I developed a voice and I developed my skills and I sharpened my skills. And eventually that attracted the industry to me.
And I was going to say, you found your niche that way, which I think is really cool.
Right. So I've got the opportunity, back to your question, to do all kinds of things now. So even after I won the RedBook competition, the editor-in-chief of RedBook asked me to take over the Ask the Editor page. So I got to do that. I got to do like an entire page in all RedBook magazines that went out of the digital. Subscribers with Chevrolet, which kind of just featured me. I get hired by brands to do things like J.Jill. In addition to producing content for my blog that reaches out to my audience, I get hired to create content on behalf of brands for their own things. Like J.Jill hired me to take pictures of myself and style things that to be used in their fitting rooms to encourage people to share when they wear their own clothing on their social channels.
So I think what you've done has taken, and like you said, instead of taking all the knowledge that you have and going into a fashion house, you've taken all that knowledge and being able to expose and having other brands go after you and be able to populate content and all around your brand. You've basically developed your own brand.
Right. Absolutely.
That is amazing. Yeah.
It's been an exciting ride. One I couldn't envision 10 years ago.
But what you did envision, you said there were 3 things you had in mind when you started the blog, right? Even in 2007 when folks were arguably not monetizing blogs in the same way.
They were hobbies.
They were hobbies, right? And so I'm curious because I do meet entrepreneurs who say, I have this voice, I want to use my voice and reach other people, and I want to monetize it. So they're very explicitly saying, I want to monetize my blog, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot harder than it looks. So what was part of your just business strategy in terms of making that happen?
Absolutely. Great question. So like I said, I even have to reiterate, when I started, this was a hobby. It did not make me any money. Any of the clothing that I showed, I spend my own coins on those, as few as they were, right? And then something happened along the way, right? I would present content and started getting all kinds of questions from women, or women would comment and say, oh my gosh, I saw those pants from TJ Maxx and I went out and bought them. And the brand started noticing.
Yes.
So it was really the genuine conversation. Right. So if you were starting if you were looking at today, starting it sounds like one of the lessons you learned, one of your blueprint activities would be having authentic, genuine conversations with the people you're reaching, whether that's 5 or 5 million.
Because the ultimate goal, if you want to call us influencer, blogger, whatever it is, that we build trust with an audience. Yes. Right? So they trust when I say, these pants are bomb. You need to have them. So 50 of them go out and buy it.
And that's why a brand will support that.
Right. So they were like, we want you to wear our pants. So when you share it, someone's going to go out and buy it as well.
What do you look for in a piece of clothing that really is the bomb for you? And because I'm sure there's things you put on and you're like, this isn't the bomb. Right. And I don't want to be photographed in this and I don't want to talk about this.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I do a lot of sponsored content. You talked about monetization. Sponsored content where a brand pays you to produce content. They give you the items that you need from them, their stores or whatever, and you put that content out. They might also pay to be able to use your photographs on their own channels as well too. And I also just do like affiliate marketing where I have part of a network where I might buy a shirt from a particular store, but I use an affiliate link when I share that. So I get paid every time somebody clicks on and or buys the item using my link as well too. So all those things are important. But I get a lot of offers for sponsored content that, doesn't quite fit my brand.
Right.
Like I am a Black woman. I don't know how many times I keep getting offered like tannin companies and stuff. So I mean, it's like also, there are lots of...
Have you seen me?
Right. That was an obvious one, right?
But, basic research, folks.
Right.
That's all we're saying.
Have you seen me, really?
Right.
So I get all kinds of things that I say no to. But in terms of what I look for in clothing, I'm very much, like I said, I don't always like to spend a lot of money on items. There are some things I think worth the investment and worth spending more money on. But I think you can also find amazing and impeccable quality at the lower end as well, too. If you look at things like fabric, right? It can be polyester, but it might look really great.
Exactly.
Like you guys love these pants. They're $13.
Those are
from an
my God
store. So it's about things can look luxe. The fabric looks amazing. Fit is really important.
Yes.
Like no matter if something does not fit you well, it's not going to look well.
And sometimes, my ladies out there, you put that on, look in the mirror, and if the mirror keeps telling you, go talk to one of your friends, because it might be no.
Or even snap a picture of yourself in the mirror.
Right.
Because I've developed my blog, I've gotten so used to looking at images. Like, and if I take a picture of things, when I try it on and look at it, I was like, no. The mirror told me it was okay, but no.
That's what I always say. Get a friend. A real friend will tell you, don't wear that. Okay?
Right.
Amen.
But that's really cool. So for a lot of people who want to get into this, I want to get paid to do blogging. That is, like you said, that is a real job. That is not something that, because you've got to get a number of followers.
Yeah.
You talk to us about that process and what's been most challenging when you try to go that route.
A lot of people now are starting their blogs off as businesses, and that's perfectly fine. And sometimes I wish I had a more fine-tuned business model when I started. I may have just gone straight into that and saved a lot of time doing some other things. But I think my entire journey has helped, build my skills up or whatever. But I think it's important to identify like your brand. What is it that you want to talk about? Be clear about that. Because I see a lot of people, they jump into fashion because they see fashion blogging as a thing, but they don't even care about fashion. Right. Styling is not really a skill that they, hold. And not to be shady, but you laughed at that, right? But like they don't particularly care about styling or thinking about styling, and people see right through that immediately. Yes. So I think if you do something that you're really passionate about or willing to put the time in to learn and get better at, that's really crucial. And then building the brand, of course, it's very difficult now because the market is so saturated. Yes. So again, we talk about authenticity, and it could seem a little like overplayed or whatnot, but that's really like you're the only you. So that's the way that you really kind of, stand out amid the crowd.
I was going to say, because there's so many people out here trying to get that build up from the market to support so that brands come after you. Is it now brands are coming after people, or are people trying to hit brands up to say, hey, I can be one of your bloggers? How's that work? Is it?
And it's so much easier to reach a brand now because of social media. A lot of times you can get in by, tagging them every day. Just like, look, I wear your clothes every day. Now, if you look amazing in it, they'll come. I don't do a whole lot of pitching because I actually have a great influx of brands like coming after just from seeing you online. And I'm what you would call a micro influencer. I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers.
You're not a Kardashian?
No. Right? I'm not in the million follower gang
yet.
Hey, maybe after this podcast, I'll blow up, right?
We are the vehicle for sure.
Maybe that's why they came.
No doubt about it.
I was going to say, maybe they thought you were a Kardashian for the
sometimes think,
maybe that's it.
Probably so.
We got her confused with the other Psyche.
Right.
But I think to that, saying to that though, I do get the attention of some big brands. Like, and I think it's important. Another thing that was really important to me when starting was I wanted to be a Black body wearing clothing out there. Because a lot of times you looked at brands or you went to their website and you see something and, well, that girl doesn't have hips or she's not my complexion. So a lot of women come by, and I love it when I hear people say, oh, thank you so much for getting that. I wanted to see what it would look like on Black skin.
Yes.
Right? So that became real integral to my brand. A lot of brands now, because of bloggers, are tapping into and recognizing a certain population that got ignored.
Yes.
Plus size women, women of color. A lot of bloggers had a lot to do with that, right? We put ourselves out there.
Great.
Yes.
Right? And the market had to listen because we were like, look, we're moving product. Like, you ignored us.
Exactly.
We are moving product.
Everybody's not a size 2, and a lot of us have booties and hips.
Exactly. exactly as how your clothing fits matters. And there are a lot of us, so you might want to get your pants have a little bit more stretch or something.
My husband put on jeans the other day and he's like, I think they have Lycra in them. And I looked at him, I'm like, of course they have Lycra in them. Where have you been? I was like, I'm glad you now have just recognized the benefits.
He's still in 1970.
I think it was a rude awakening for him. Yes, it really was. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about influences and self-expression and all the other things we have to learn for our booties and our butts. Okay?
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of this entrepreneurially thinking podcast. We want you to know all about the great things they are up to. Square One offers 2 training options. Square One Ignite, a 4-week program created to help founders quick start their business model validation process. Or Square One Bootcamp, an in-depth 10-week, 50-hour program that combines formal instruction with hands-on learning, networking, and mentoring. To learn more about Square One Bootcamp or Square One Ignite, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continuing support, CET, we say thank you.
My name is Eric Bailey. I am the founder and CEO of eMed Medical Company, and thinking entrepreneurially is the way of the future because you can do anything that you want to do. You can do anything that you aspire to do. That means you understand it will be more entrepreneurs than old employers in the marketplace.
So, Psyche, who or what are some of your influences? Because you said earlier you'd done some reggae singing, and we know you're from St. Kitts, and so I'm feeling a tropical theme here.
Yes, she didn't say it early. We just heard that through the freaking.
Well, she did. She just
commercial break.
She reminded us that we heard it, right?
Yes, yes.
But so, who's influencing your fashion choices?
Yeah. So I think something that's integral to my brand is living colorfully. I love color. I love wearing bold colors. You would very rarely find me in all black, like on my blog.
Like me today.
I mean, you're rocking it, though. You're rocking it.
Gray and navy blue. And then she's like, chartreuse.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh.
And I go so boldly with now, because I think when I was in the academic world, I tried to kind of tone down a little bit, right? To not stand out and to not make it seem like, oh, I'm thinking about my clothes and not my scholarly work. So now I'm just like all out there, right? I love color.
So you got the degree, baby.
Right. And I think color has such an effect on us, has like psychological. It can make you happy. Some colors look really great on skin tones, particularly. So I think it's really important to live colorfully, to wear colorful clothing, especially on these crazy wintry days we've been having here in St. Louis.
So on that note, what are the 3 must-haves? Because I'm looking at your wardrobe. What's the 3 things that you think women should be looking at today?
So, let's talk about maybe spring trends.
Yes.
Okay? If you wanted to update your style, like a shoe that's really popular right now is the slingback.
Yes.
She has
a beautiful
one
showing
also,
us. Right?
Yes.
So if you were around in the 80s or 90s, you probably wore these already, right?
Yeah. Those are much better than the 80s or 90s version. Those are beautiful slingbacks.
Thank you. So slingbacks are a great shoe choice if you wanted to do just kind of one thing to update your style. This spring is really about color as well too. Bold colors, that like living coral color is the one that's popular right now. And I think that comes in so many shades that looks great on everybody's skin tone. Find something there. Bold, colorful suits is like a huge thing as well too. And then animal prints are still continuing to be a huge trend. So even if you don't, you're wearing all black today, Cheryl, throw on a scarf, right? That's snake prints. Boom, updated wardrobe for spring. There we go.
Take the snake off you got the snake skin boots. And then add yeah.
So see, she's already updated me. Yeah, she's already updated me on that.
Wow. It's me.
And you mentioned before that so much of this is about self-expression, and you've clearly moved from the academic setting into doing this full time. When did you know that you were able to live fully in your self-expression?
The IRS.
That's classic. When they said you owe this much, I was like, I guess that's my full-time gig now.
man, the taxes we have to pay. The first year I had to write a really big check. I was like, wait a minute, okay.
Well, they consider that compensation.
Oh yeah, this is a serious business. There's self-employment tax.
Right,
tax.
exactly.
And then I live in the city, so there's St. Louis city tax in Missouri.
That self-employment tax ain't no
then I
joke.
realized-
Oh my goodness.
That
We
is
pay
no
a
joke.
whole lot more.
Yes.
than having an employer pay for
Exactly.
and whatnot. It's like, okay, if I'm gonna be doing
Say,
this,
this is no longer a hobby.
yeah, I'm gonna like dive all in. I'm really going after. I'm gonna have targeted income goals like per month. I'm gonna really itemize my expenses because they're very like this whole world of influencer marketing is new, so they're very careful about what we're allowed to deduct. Like clothing is still one that's being debated because you know
we all got to wear it.
We all have to wear it, and I don't only wear my clothes for the blog. And that's like the requirement that it has to be like, you know, like a nurse's uniform. They can deduct for uniforms, but they're like, you can't do that.
Say, this is my uniform. What are you talking about?
No, like, does not count.
One day. That's
So
when
you
true
see it on
liberation
this
will
picture?
occur.
Right.
This is on there.
But no,
my
what
God.
would be great is if you only wore sweats when you weren't being photographed. Like, you know,
Right.
and then you could be like, seriously, I only wear that when I'm in front of the camera. Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
So the IRS made it for reals in like that literal sense.
Right.
Mentally, when did you make that shift? Because having that, I mean, it's just a different orientation to the world, right?
Yeah.
Doing scholarly work is just a different way of being. So
Absolutely. So I made a decision to go in completely when my income levels got to a point where it was comfortable and the pressure on my time was just
too much.
heavy. And I was like, okay, I need to step foot in this area and go and fully commit and do that. And like, so far it's gone pretty
That's
well.
great.
It's been like comfortable.
So have you, well, it seems like with your background as a banker, you know how to build
Save
this
the
business.
coin.
Exactly. And build your business from a financial standpoint. How has the WashU experience helped you? Because I always, you know, when people go back and get add-on degrees, as I said, because my mother, you know, when I left medicine and went to business school, I thought she was going to have a stroke, you know? But I've been able to I clearly use my experience in different ways. How has that helped
Absolutely.
you?
And believe me, I understand that because people that you're doing what? Fashion? You? Huh? I get that like all the time. But so people ask me a lot of times about kind of the skills that I use every day for the business. And to be honest, a lot of it was self-learned or self-taught. But my prowess for learning is something I developed in school. So that's giving me a certain kind of self-efficacy. And
So
I studied
like the diligence and the method of actually learning new things. You had that.
Right. I knew nothing about photography or graphic design or web design when I first started. But I went in and I learned it, and that allows me to keep my expenses low.
And that's a curiosity in learning, right?
Right. And it was just, it was interesting. So I just kept going. So, you know, it was easy to do. It didn't feel like daunting work. And I found passion again. So it was like exciting for me. And then again, I studied economics. So even when I started the blog, it was a hobby. I wanted to be clear about what I was talking about when I said affordability. So I actually adopted an economic concept of affordability, which
tell
means
us more.
you're able and willing to pay. A lot of times we get stuck on just the ability to pay, right? And then you actually use your rent money.
Right. Which is that is not economically sound. Okay.
No. So it's about ability and also willingness to pay.
Right.
So I do own some higher end like designer items. And then there are some designer items I'm not willing to pay, even if I'm able, because that's not a worthy kind of spending for me. Or the opportunity cost of that money is just too high. Right. All the things I could spend that money on matter more than spending it on this particular designer bag or designer pair of shoes.
See, that's how I feel about gambling.
Oh my gosh. Don't even
Because
get
I'm like,
She has economic models for that.
$200 and throw it away in the gamble. I could eat, buy, and clothes or do
I
something.
got sling bags and a take-home bag.
Exactly.
Right. I'm literally always calculating these.
You and I are on the
Every
same
dollar there's an
page.
opportunity cost for it. So you got to make a sound decision about what you're doing. So I share like my process there. Over time on my blog, I've shared how literally I itemize like every single penny I've spent in a budget like every month. And this is my clothing budget. And this is how much I'm allowed to spend on it. And I can't go over that. And people actually were interested in that. So I sometimes talk about things outside of fashion. And there's been a growing interest in that as well too. So that's how I kind of tie in the economics. And then also just being more of like a scholar, having a scholarly background, like I like to think about clothes because a lot of times, like I have people tell me like, look, I only care about clothes to the extent that they cover my naked body.
For sure.
I was like, okay, but I was like, for me, I view clothes as ideas. They're somebody's ideas, right? So I think how we put them together says something about how we value the world and how it says something about how we think about ourselves and the world. And it's an easy way to communicate to others without even saying something. We always hear that famous Chanel quote. But also, like for women, I found like clothing and style to be an important connector. Like I'm walking in Whole Foods and this woman stops me and she's like, oh my God, where are you from? I love this outfit. And then I found out, wow, she used to work for Dolce & Gabbana and had traveled the world doing all kinds of stuff. And I was wearing an Italian coat that was actually from J. Crew, and she recognized the print. And that connected us. Like, how would I have met that woman?
Right.
Like, well, nobody's ever stopped me walking in.
Let's just say I don't get that either. Rest assured.
Well, obviously,
we're just going to be background noise. It's okay.
We're background to your foreground.
Oh my gosh, you are too much.
But on that note, do you actually
amazing.
help people shop too?
Yes.
Like, is that a service you provide?
Yes, because we're very...
Because now I feel very self-conscious and I think I might need to get some help.
Yeah, do you have that part
so
of
I
your...
don't do the personal shopping.
She does not do the personal shopping.
I have done some shopping for a boutique in the past. It's very exhausting, but I like to present like models of things. So I think usually what I hope is what happens is that people come by the blog, they see something they're inspired about, like, oh, I would have never thought to put those two colors together. Where did you get that top? All right. The Gap, let me go there. Right. Top as well too. So I hope that I provide like a model. Yeah. And I do try to provide also, it's not just, oh, here's a pretty outfit, right? If I love to like mix prints, for example. So my post is going to break down, how do you go about mixing prints? So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy exactly what I have. You can look at your closet and be like,
because if you mix some crazy looking
I'll be walking in with the picture going, I need that.
You all go out there trying to mix some prints with something that doesn't work, you're going to be looking like a fashion don't.
No, I share the secrets. Okay. They go out, they apply them. Like I talk about color mixing, then I'll introduce like the color wheel and color theory. And look, this is how you can actually play around with this yourself at home.
Wow.
So yeah. It's like there's a little bit of an education piece in there, but I don't like to make it feel like education, right?
So when we're
just girls talking.
I was going to say, so when I'm standing in the
but
TJ
here's my
Maxx,
spreadsheet.
Right, that's why I was like, so when we're sitting in the TJ Maxx, what is that, the dressing room, we can pull up your blog and say, look.
Well, I used to joke. My mom would send us out and she'd say, I want you to ask yourself these questions before you buy anything. Do you already have it? Will it go with anything in your closet? All sorts of, and I was like, you suck the joy out of shopping. But there were 4 kids, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have any extra money to spend, right?
Right.
But it sounds like
that was fashion expertise right there.
I was saying, like what you're saying is my mom wasn't the killjoy that I thought that she was.
No, and I actually like to think about. She was on point, and I like to think about like rules and restrictions as something to inspire you. Right? Like when I go shopping, sometimes you'll see me just like, going by the aisles like real fast because I'm looking for something yellow. You're not that. I'm not.
I need you.
Right. So I'm going on
You're
a mission.
strategic.
Yeah. Because then you can get, oh my gosh, sucked in. And then there's sale. Like, oh my gosh, it's 80% off. I have to have it. And then it sits in the bag. And then you need to KonMari method your entire later. Because no.
And see, that's why I look at too. A lot of people have a lot. I had to go through this. Like, you say if you don't, purge. If you don't wear it within a year, get rid of it.
I'm a good purger.
I am very good at that. My husband, on the other end, not so good.
He has quite an extensive closet.
Yes, he does. Yes. But you can't.
But he always looks amazing.
You can't wear all of this stuff.
Watch him.
And I know men's fashion changes less often.
That's true.
Than women's fashion.
That's true.
So maybe
stuff tends to be so classic.
Yeah,
so true.
Yes.
Like my husband just discovered Lycra. It took him a long time. Took him a long time. Fashion didn't change all that much.
So I have to go to this blog now.
Yes,
that you have gotten me.
Come by. And it's so funny you talked about having like huge closets because I get sent like all kinds of merchandise and I do collaborations with brands. So even though I have like 50 million pairs of jeans already, they want me to wear theirs. So I get like another pair. Actually people are surprised when they see my closet because it's actually small. So I do pass things out of my closet like fairly quickly. So I do donate pieces that I get.
Oh, that's great.
I really wish I was your size.
Yeah, neither one of that will work for us.
Yeah, that's okay. So you clearly, there are things that are related to the work you do, but that you're not doing, right? You're not doing the personal shopping thing. So what do you see as part of the growth of your brand moving forward?
Right. So I think I mentioned this just like briefly, like my blog actually allowed me entrance into an industry that used to be very closed off if you didn't, have networks or
the
went to a
brands
fashion
themselves.
school. So brands, and also I do things like outside of that as well too. Like when St. Louis Magazine came by, I do their children's styling for the family issue of the magazine, and they came knocking, and I'm like, I have never styled a child. I don't have a child, but they liked my kind of colorful, cheerful style, and they wanted that kind of page for the magazine. So I've done that for the last, I think, 2 to 3 years now.
That's great.
So that's the thing. I've written for a Live magazine. So I actually now, even though I started my blog as the anti-magazine, I've now gone in and worked with a number of magazines as well too, and brands, helping them develop their own businesses and things like that.
So you've been creating your own path.
Yeah.
You're not following any prescribed path or whatever, and you're bringing in, these brands are coming after you. Yeah. What advice would you give to some of these young people starting out? Or young bloggers, I should, and not age young, just bloggers who are new. Yeah.
Again, I would say, find something that you're truly passionate about, but it's fashion. You're an aspiring makeup artist. Like, now is the time you can get your portfolio out there. And Instagram has millions of users. It just takes the right person to see your work and appreciate your work. Because I get to work again with like some big brands, and I'm a micro influencer. Like my last big collaboration with like J. Crew, I was one of 2 African-American women. The other girl has over 400,000 followers, but they still used me with my like 10,000 plus at the time because of the quality of the work.
Yes.
So I think that really resonates with brands, because it's easy to grow huge followings like on social media and all those platforms today by using unscrupulous means.
Right.
So people see through all that and they look at the quality of the work, and that kind of really matters more, I think, to brands.
And these brands are looking for you guys out here, because you're the grassroots. You're speaking to their audience.
As an important intermediary to a woman who they may not have been able to reach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, of course, having like an African-American woman audience is important for me.
And you said earlier that one of your dreams is to go back to St. Kitts at some point. Correct.
Eventually. To live and retire.
I'm just really, what I'm thinking is like, you've rewritten the script, right? Because the script before was doctor, lawyer, banker, right?
Exactly.
Because like we've talked a lot before of like, go get a good education, go get a good job. And so whatever, we're all following scripts, right? On how to be successful, how to take care of ourselves. Yes. And you've rewritten a script. Yeah. So I'm just excited to see that like somebody looks and they go, you got made what? Doing what?
Right.
Awesome. Nothing wrong with economics.
I was going to say, because your family, I was going to say, your family's got to be like, what? What are you doing?
I think they were in the beginning. My mom is like so proud now. She's showing everybody. Her friends are following me.
Of course.
But my parents, when I studied political science, they were like, there's no political science ads in the newspaper. My mom's a nurse. My dad was a florist. There was like, those are jobs that people advertise for, that you get skills for. What is this like thing, right? So I think honestly that you can sort of take all these disparate skills, right? This ability to write really well, this ability to explain your process and unpack your thinking, this ability to be authentic and produce at a extremely high quality. When you walked in today, the first thing you said to us was, your audio is so crisp. And we were like, it's amazing. Like there's a difference in whether it's audio production or photography or video, and that difference does show. Right.
Absolutely.
And makes a difference as part of your brand.
And that's one of the things I'll even add on to tell people, like, really focus on sharpening those skills, right? Don't just get caught up in being an influencer just to be popular and, and that kind of thing, but really sharpen your skills. Because Instagram could disappear tomorrow, and I'm not worried.
Right.
It wasn't here when I started.
Right.
It's been helpful in growing my business. I get a lot of Instagram only, like business, but that's not my platform. I don't own it. It can go away tomorrow. Yeah. We've seen platforms disappear.
That is a really interesting.
So really focus on building your skill set, because that's something you can take anywhere.
Well, that's amazing. Well, I'm going to work with Cheryl to get her on Instagram so that she can follow you
on the Instagram.
Well, I just like saying it that way. We'll get the internet up and running. We'll make sure that we Googles some stuff for you, and we'll subscribe you. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and just such a joy, because having followed you to like you are as beautiful and as colorful and magnetic as you seem on my phone when I'm looking and going, I just don't know how she does it every day. She wakes up and looks beautiful, and look at her getting coffee and taking photographs of herself. I just don't know how she does it. But now I know how she does it, and I'm really impressed.
She's mixing prints with stripes and reptiles. So,
go for it.
There you go.
I will call her first.
Thank you. Anytime.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you for making time for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I enjoy talking with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Changing the way you view new ventures, unlocking your creativity and innovation, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's Entrepreneurially Thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit entrepreneuriallythinking.com to listen to all your favorite episodes and learn more about our guests, hosts, and sponsors. Feeling inspired? Be sure to share your thoughts, questions, and stories in the comments section. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. The best way to show love is to share and subscribe. Let everybody know that you're entrepreneurially thinking.